What's up, YouTube? Capital G here, looking at the final Link monster coming out in the Link Vrains pack. This is Evilswarm Origin, and I have to say, this card is pretty damn good. I think that the expectations for the Evilswarm Link monster were fairly high, because if you really look at Evilswarm and their extra deck monsters, whether it be Ouroboros, Bahamut, obviously Ophion was like a format-defining card back with Dragon Rulers, and it was like the anti-meta card of the format. Yeah, Evilswarm have really good extra deck monsters. You could throw Evilswarm Exciton Knight in there as well, or even Evilswarm Nightmare. Like, all the Evilswarm monsters just seem to be fairly competent coming out of the extra deck. So I had pretty high hopes for this monster, and if you know anything about the Dual Terminal 2, obviously this is the virus that kind of causes all the shit to go down, starts bringing back the legendary dragons, and it affects infects Noelia, and just starts like, oh man, it just makes the entire world a fucking shithole to be in, and there's just violence and everybody's dying and stuff like that. And one of the reasons that I believe that this card will be called Evilswarm Origin in the TCG, because if you look right here on what's it called on TC, or excuse me, on YG Organization, they have it listed as Stillswarm Origin. But if you look at Evilswarm Exciton Knight was originally what he was. Stillswarm Roach. He was a bad guy originally, but he was never actually infected by the virus. And in the TCG, they still named him as an Evilswarm, despite the fact that, yeah, to be an Evilswarm, you have to be infected by the VIRS virus, and he never was. So that's why I believe that this card will not be called Stillswarm Origin. It'll be called Evilswarm Origin. But you know, if you play Stillswarm, if you're one of the 2 people on the planet that's still fucking around with that deck, this card does actually work for you. I'm just gonna really talk about it in the context of Evilswarm, because Stillswarm is basically a dead archetype. To be honest, it was completely dead on arrival. Evilswarm were like the anti-meta gods of the Dragon Ruler era. Anyways, let's go ahead and look at the card. So it's a light monster, which is really weird because Evilswarm aren't light. They're dark, obviously, unless you're talking about Exciton Knight randomly. But yeah, that was the first thing that kind of threw me into a loop. So shout outs to Honest, I guess. Light Fiend, Link 2. 2000 attack, so pretty solid attack stats there. The link points are up and down. It points towards your opponent. The first effect kind of explains why, and it requires 2 Evilswarm monsters. So again, you can summon this in Stillswarm, but who the fuck is playing Stillswarm? You're basically going to summon it in Evilswarm. Effect number 1: while this card is in the extra monster zone, neither player can special summon monsters from the extra deck to a main monster zone except a main monster zone this card points to. So this is kind of like the stun effect. I kind of understand it. It still obviously leaves you a spot open to go into. Mainly, I would probably suggest Ophion so that you can have your maximum lock potential, but it can be like a little bit of a disruption effect. Your opponent still can summon to their main, or their, excuse me, they can still summon to their extra monster zone. It just restricts them from going further than that unless they want to summon in that specific zone. And if they have something in that zone, or I don't know, if you're fucking around with ground collapse or something, then they won't be able to really extend their plays. I kind of think that this effect is just mildly annoying. I think that there are a lot of ways to get around it. I think the second and third effect more than make up for this and make this card a much more, I guess, threatening card, which is kind of weird because when you think Ophion, you think of that just ridiculous stun, but this card's stun effect isn't really all that good. Effect number 2: while this card points to a monster, that includes your opponent's monster, this card cannot be targeted by effects, nor destroyed by battle or card effects. This is where I looked at this card and I thought, okay, now we're getting somewhere. This thing is basically, as long as you have it linked up, this thing is basically unfucking killable. I guess your opponent could kaiju it. They can use some non-targeting removal like Tiramisu or Eater of Millions, but a lot of decks don't even have cards like that, and it will be incredibly difficult for your opponent to keep this guy, or to get this guy off the board, as long as you keep something leaked. Ideally, I would imagine you want to put Ophion right under it, and then your opponent obviously can't special summon high level monsters. They can still link summon, but think about a deck like Spiral, where your opponent now can't summon Sleeper, they can't summon Master Plan. That could be kind of annoying. The third effect is maybe even my favorite. It says once per turn, when a monster or monsters on the field is destroyed by battle or card effect, you can special summon a number of level 4 or lower Evilswarm monsters from your deck in defense position up to the number of monsters destroyed. This is probably my favorite effect of this card, and I like it because number 1, it does not have to be your monsters that get destroyed, but so it basically punishes your opponent for going aggressive and trying to run your shit over over trying to pop your cards, but then it also benefits you if you want to go aggressive. If your opponent is just trying to set monsters, maybe you got them on Ophion lock or something like that, they're just setting cards, you can go, okay, you know what, F this. I'm going to go aggressive. I'm going to start attacking. I've got my infestation infection, or excuse me, pandemic virus, yeah, infestation pandemic in my hand, protecting me from battle traps, etc., etc. If I run over one of your cards, I get myself a free Evilswarm card, and it actually can just maybe even make your opponent change their playstyle. Think about it like this, right? Let's say that I have a caster on the field under this. I don't even have an Ophion or anything like that. If you run over my caster, what's stopping me from getting like a Kirkion from my deck? And if you can't kill the Kirkion, obviously Kirkion can just turn itself into even more monsters. And then it's like, well, shit, you were just better off leaving the caster on the field. But again, at the same time, if you just try to, you know, wall up and I start running over your monsters, I can start netting the advantages from that too. So I like this effect because it basically works for offense and defensive purposes, and it doesn't shortchange you. If you get I don't know, blasted by something like maybe an Icarus attack where two of your monsters are going to go down, this card doesn't give you one monster for losing two, it gives you two monsters for, you know, two. Or if you blow out your opponent with like a Regeki, you get to summon two monsters from going plus already. Like, that is insane. Like, imagine if you Regeki two of your opponent's monsters, that's a +1, and then it's got this guy triggers and you get two more monsters, that's like a fucking +3 swing and tempo. Like, you're not gonna lose that game. So I don't know, this seems like a card where the first effect was just mildly annoying, but the effects to me got progressively better until we had a well-rounded, just really good card. I know that some people were kind of expecting something like Evilswarm Ophion, where it could have that stun ability that could define a format, but I don't think that people, or I don't think Konami wanted to make Ophion just another summon this monster and then just sit on it for 8 turns deck. Like, I know that some people were thinking, oh, this is gonna be something crazy, CapG, like your opponent can't link summon monsters under like, or your opponent can't link summon like higher than link 2s, but yeah, I don't think Konami wanted Evilswarm to be a complete just floodgate deck with the monster. So this plus Ophion should be pretty annoying, especially, you know, with Jack Knights coming into the meta. You get Ophion against them, they basically can't play Yu-Gi-Oh! But I think that this is a perfectly fine card because it has very good effects attached into it, and it's a pretty difficult card to get off the board. So whatever you guys think, leave it in the comment section below. Thank you guys for watching. As always, subscribe if you have not already, and turn on those notifications for daily videos.